3 weeks ago, I was told I have a fracture on the end of my femur and that I wouldn't be running for 3 months. I pulled out the Chicago Marathon, spent the last 2 weeks on crutches, and was convinced that running for the rest of 2025 was off the cards. But it turns out that diagnosis was wrong. A little bit dramatic, but I needed that. Okay, for the full context on my injury. 2.5 weeks before the Chicago Marathon, after 6-7 of the most consistent weeks of marathon training to date, 100 to 120 mile weeks with no pain whatsoever, I suddenly started feeling some pain in my right knee. It came on very fast and escalated very quickly, and I was compensating during my cool down, and by the end of that day, I couldn't walk normally. I did the sensible thing. I got it seen to, I rested, I iced it, got all the inflammation down, and for my first run back, it was actually pain-free. The offloading had worked. And then the pain pretty quickly came back. It had initially been diagnosed as patellofemoral pain, which is a fancy word for a runner's knee. But when the treatment that I was given for that injury wasn't working, I went for an MRI. And the report of that MRI came back with 3 key findings. A 1 centimeter fracture on the inner side of my knee, a kneecap that is sitting slightly higher than usual and irritating the fat pad, and a small area of grade 2 cartilage damage. 10 days out from Chicago, I found that out. I was told to completely shut everything down, no weight bearing on my right leg, and on crutches immediately. And I called my physio from back home the minute I got this report to give it to me straight. He was pretty concerned because the site of the fracture was in a major load bearing location, so the complications for it not healing properly were pretty risky. But thankfully, he was able to refer me to one of the best sports doctors in the country to get some next steps and some answers on this injury. Answers to things like, what does the rehab process look like for this? How long am I on crutches for? When will I be allowed to cross-train? And will I really not be able to run for 12 weeks? So a few days later, after flying back to the UK and getting my scans transferred over, me and Daniel made the trek up to Manchester from down south to find out what the recovery looks like. Today is a very special day because it is Daniel's birthday.
Yay!
Daniel's got the best birthday treat today of driving me to Manchester and back. I'm gonna be in the car for 7.5 hours without traffic. Time of his life, nothing better.
Nothing better.
Don't worry, I've rescheduled Daniel's birthday to tomorrow. I'm gonna treat him like a king. But it is a very important appointment today. I am seeing Dr. John Rogers, the sports doctor, who is hopefully going to give me some of the answers to my questions, probably not all of them. I'm trying to manage expectations, but at the very least, hopefully from today, I will get a little bit of a roadmap as to what my recovery looks like, the timescales, if there are any treatment options that we're going to look at other than, physiotherapy and strength work, and when all of that is going to start, when I can walk normally, when I can swim, when I can cycle, when I can elliptical, and when I can run. But fingers crossed. I'm feeling quite nervous, apprehensive. It kind of feels like there's 4 possible outcomes from today in my head, and 3 of them are bad. Or I suppose one of them is kind of neutral, but a bit bad, depending on how you look at it. The one good scenario could be that he looks at the scan images, takes a look at me in person, and the assessment results in a better than expected outcome. I've been, I think, thinking the worst by assuming that from the day I got the scan, I wouldn't be back starting a little run walk until 12 weeks time. So it could be good news if it's less than that. The sort of neutral outcome is that it's exactly as I expected. 12 weeks, doing my first run walk on Christmas Day, but sort of bad side of that, I think, will be realising how long that really is and it kind of being in black and white in front of me. Which, don't get me wrong, is helpful, but I think mentally it might just take a little bit of time to wrap my head around. And then the other 2 scenarios is it's either worse than I expected, more time off than I expected, or a more complex road to recovery, maybe even talking about surgery, which is unlikely, I think. And the other one is just a lot of uncertainty. Could be this long, could be that. We don't know. We have to wait and see. So, yeah. Either way, we take a step forward today and get a little bit of clarity, which, is going to be a good thing. It's kind of funny hearing myself talk about how worried I was and the different scenarios and potential different outcomes now being on the other side of it and knowing how that appointment went. But before I show you my very immediate, very raw reaction straight after the appointment and explain exactly what this means for what's going to look quite different in terms of my road to recovery, I want to tell you about something that has made the last few weeks just that little bit less stressful. It's always hard to not let stress in one area of your life seep into all of the others when it is something that is so important to you. And sometimes it's actually impossible. Consider this. Poor Daniel is traveling across the world with 4 big suitcases, 1 small suitcase, 2 backpacks, and a wife on crutches who can't help. Traveling's stressful enough as it is, but thankfully for us, this nifty little extra travel pack vacuum kit made packing to head home so much easier. They sent it to us a few weeks before we flew back, and honestly, I can't tell you how much more we fit in my suitcase. You can use it with your own vacuum cleaner, or take their mini portable vacuum on the go, and it even doubles as a laundry bag at the end of trip. And they also sent me their world best-selling wallet, which means that losing all of my cards is now one less thing to stress about as well. The tracker card means that you can check the location of your wallet from your phone. Plus, it holds up to 14 cards, it comes with a lifetime warranty, and with this pop-up design, it's perfect for paying on the move, whether you're running, cycling, or just in need of a snack on your commute. Extra have got a full sale on right now, and my code, which is Phily, stacks on top of it. So you can actually get up to 45% off at checkout. Use the link at the top of my description to fit even more in your suitcase and to never lose your wallet ever again. Let's find out exactly how I felt after that very important appointment with the sports doctor last week, where almost exactly like I'd predicted in the car, it wasn't what I was expecting. And I found out that the radiology read that I originally had on my MRI was wrong.
What just happened?
So I don't have a stress fracture. I don't have a fracture in my femoral condyle. What? Okay. So I got in there, he took my history, I explained what had happened, the dates, the date of the fall, the presentation of the pain, the 6.5 weeks that I got of really solid training with 0 pain after the pain from the fall subsided gradually over 2 weeks. And then he explained to me that the consultant in-house radiologist, who is like the best in the biz, looks at everyone's sporting injuries, MRI scans, has looked at my scan that we sent over from the CD, and there is no evidence of a fracture. There is a bone bruise, which has been misdiagnosed as a fracture, and the associated edema. He said there's no evidence of substantial cartilage damage, so they've just thrown that in there, and the only thing that's on there is some inflammation and the patella alta thing, where it's like your kneecap sitting a little bit higher, which is going to cause some maltracking issues, which is patellofemoral pain, which is what Chris said. That's what Wes said, the physio that I saw in Flagstaff. Chris, who assessed me on FaceTime, was right, even though obviously when the pain started coming back in, he was like, I'm worried about this, we need to MRI just in case. And I've been on crutches for 2 weeks without needing to be. I've not needed to offload my leg because I don't have a fracture. And the thing that's like going through my head now, obviously on the one hand, the outcome that I didn't expect would happen has happened, where it's like better news than I thought. I'm not running until the end of the year. That's great. He's recommended that I start cross-training now and take 2 weeks to build that up, and then gradually build back into running. But I need to be gradual, because by that point I've had 4 weeks off, which hopefully is enough time to let this settle. I get rehab, I get physio, we sort it out. So I'll be running by November. I'll be running in probably 2 weeks time.
And not walking for a month,
No, easing back into 60 miles a week over 6 weeks is what he said. Mm-hmm. So by mid-December I'll be at decent mileage. Yeah. It's not marathon mileage. But the other thing that is just really messing with my head, and to be honest, I just don't know how to feel about if I hadn't have been given the report that I was given and the readout of subchondral fracture on the medial femoral condyle shut down. I was a week and a half out from Chicago, and apart from what I now know is patellofemoral pain, I was in a really good spot. And could I have taken a few more days off and rehabbed it and worked on it? We had all of that treatment booked that we cancelled because I thought I had a broken bone. And I could be sat here having run a marathon 2 days ago, and I know, I said that to him in the room, and he was like, you can't think like that, we're here now. But do you know what I mean? How could I not think like that?
Yeah, in my head, it's not Chicago that is the sad thing, because if I'm completely honest, it sounds like Chicago was probably a no-go anyway, considering of how your knee is feeling now, that you still get a bit of irritation.
But if I'd have known that it just needed, maybe I couldn't have run Chicago and I needed an extra week, but I could have shut down, then ease back in, and I could be like continuing an extended marathon block now with this patellofemoral pain nipped in the bud. I've not done anything. I've just left my leg alone for 2 weeks. So that patellofemoral pain is just still there, and probably worse because I've been having a really stiff leg. I could have eased back into like a marathon plan to salvage this block, and like, I'll get over it, I'll process it. This is good news in the circumstances that like we thought he was going to be like, yeah, you're off for this long. Maybe I'll swim in 2 weeks, maybe I'll cycle in 4 weeks, maybe I'll run in 12. But like, this is just like a new sort of layer of processing, I think. And I'd really kind of got, I don't know.
You'd almost got your head around.
I'd almost got my head around what I thought was the reality. So. It had been exactly 2 weeks and a day on crutches at that point, and I thought I was doing everything right, but you can only act on the information you've got. When he told me that the report I'd been given after the MRI was wrong, I honestly didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or scream. Both me and Daniel were sat there just thinking, what the f***? Yes, right here and right now, this is really good news. But also, I just lost 2 weeks doing the exact opposite of what my body needed. When you get injured, you put so much trust in the professionals around you. They are literally the only people that are going to give you the information that you need and give you the tools that you need to get back healthy doing what you love. So obviously, you follow everything they say. When you find out they got it wrong, and in this instance, when you had a original diagnosis that before getting an MRI was the right one, it just makes you question everything. I'm just really thankful that I was able to get a second opinion from someone that I really trust. And to be completely honest, I am still feeling a little bit of frustration and anger at the situation. I'm frustrated that the decision whether to run Chicago or another marathon in a few weeks' time was taken out of my hands. I can't know what would have happened and if I'd have been able to make it to the start line or the finish line, but I also feel like I've lost the opportunity to improve this injury in the last 2 weeks because I've been on crutches and hardly moving my leg rather than staying mobile and getting started with the rehab. Whether I like it or not, all of that is behind me, and what I have to do right now is focus on the present and moving forwards rather than dwelling on what could have been and ultimately what's done. The silver lining is I'm walking again. I've started cross training. I've got a little bit of a plan for the next 7 days, and I'll have more detail on what that plan is going to look like moving forwards once I get another assessment and we progress through the rehab, and I'll be able to share what the road to recovery from this injury is going to look like. And if you spin all of this on its head and reframe it all a little bit, I've kind of been given a second chance, and I very much intend to bring you all along with me for it. If any of you have ever had an injury misdiagnosed or feel like you've had to fight to get the right medical advice, let me know in the comments because I would love to hear your stories on this. I feel like it's a unique position to be in, but I have a suspicion that it's not as uncommon as it should be. And subscribe if you want to see me come back, hopefully, faster than originally planned. And as always, my friends, love the grind.